Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. You're watching it with me, Sunanda Jayaseelan. A fascinating conversation that we have lined up for you tonight, talking about the intersection between literature, art, science, technology, and the digital world. Two very interesting people joining us to talk about just that and to also talk about a book, the first time ever in the world, that they have gone about co-creating. I'm being joined live on the show tonight by Param Adani, author and student. Also joining me on the show tonight, Professor Gil Alterovtiz, author and Harvard faculty member. Param, so good having you with us here on the show tonight, and I want to start really by welcoming both of you, but by coming to you first, Param, and ask you to talk about what is definitely a very fascinating subject, and it's a very fascinating concept, bringing really technology and literature together. What was the inspiration for you behind this book, and why did you decide that you wanted to create this?
So The Poet and the Machine is an AI-based anthology. It's the first AI-based anthology from cover to cover, authored by Professor Alterovtiz and I. And the whole idea is that it's amalgamating the natural sciences and the humanities. And I've had a passion from a young age in the natural sciences and the humanities, and the idea of combining them together and get this book out. So, this book is generated using different AI tools, different literary AI tools, and it deals with topics like marine chemistry, leadership, philosophy, math, and topics that I really care about, that the two of us really care about. So it's a novel thing in the field.
Professor Alterovtiz, you have written, of course, a series of books, I understand, and this is your latest co-creation, and you've done that with Param. What was this experience like for you? What was this journey like? What was the inspiration really for you to get started?
Right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here. There was this desire to inspire young people in STEM education, in science, technology, education, and math. And my dream has always been, you could use AI in a beneficial way in education if used in the right way. There's a lot of talk now about, for example, discussions around banning CHATGPT and others, right? And just, it reminds me of conversations in the past about, calculators when they couldn't be used in certain situations. And there's certainly there are areas where AI can really be beneficial in education. That's what one of the inspirations for this book. I also have been a fan in general around how do you integrate science, technology, and the arts. A few years back, when I was actually a student at Harvard, in a side project, I took this gene expression data and I turned it into a music dance album, which was played in dance clubs over in Boston. And that intersection of art and science is one that I think really is valuable and can really be inspiring to people.
Wearing your Harvard faculty hat, Professor Alterovtiz, you work very closely with students, you mentor them, including, of course, I understand, a lot of international students like Param. What's it like for you, working so closely with students, working so closely with international students and mentoring them? What's that like for you?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, Param is exceptional, right? So I've worked with students, right? And then there's like Param, he really stands out as just a force to reckon with, right? As you mentioned, I worked on books with Harvard faculty before, and including another bestseller, and it's really been a unique experience working with Param in just that international aspect. We met. But then this collaboration was done completely virtually, right? And so it's really been inspiring to see that creativity, the resourcefulness of young people from different backgrounds, different cultures, and you really get a wonderful kind of amalgamation in a book like this when you have that kind of passion and that kind of diversity of talent. Very excited to hear of Param's progress going into the future. I know that this program really embodies what I see in Param, right? A leader of tomorrow, right? And so I think this is just the beginning.
Param, you've spoken about what led you to really write the book. But for our viewers who may not have had the chance to read it yet, get their hands on it yet, and this is a reminder for everyone watching this interview to go ahead and grab your copies once it's out. Just talk to us about what the book is about, and also are there any interesting anecdotes in the book that you want to sort of bring up and leave us with?
Absolutely. And, as I mentioned previously, the whole idea of the book is to combine the humanities and the natural sciences. And I would personally really recommend this poem on the philosophy of math that deals with logic, proof, and, asking the big questions of math, especially, why do we look at math in a specific way? And it kind of also brings in the idea of philosophy and the open-ended nature of philosophy. And, an anecdote that really comes to mind is when you want to combine the natural sciences and the humanities tends to be quite open-ended and being subjective, but the sciences are quite technical and quantitative. And the whole idea is to reach this intersection that's both accurate and is beautiful as a poem. So I think that was sort of a challenge when it came to getting the AI to create this poem that's both technical and also rhymes and is beautiful. And it's a problem we dealt with. And after using my poetic mind a little bit and also some quantitative help from Professor Alterovtiz, we were able to reach a point that it worked out.
We are, of course, a show for entrepreneurs, Param. So I'd love for you to really talk about your own entrepreneurial streak, and when you set up something called Gyan Galaxy, really trying to encourage more entrepreneurship and more innovation really in the field of science, in the field of technology. What was that like? And just talk to us a little bit about Gyan Galaxy itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gyan Galaxy is a national level science fair I established a year ago. So, I've been passionate about the environmental sciences and chemistry specifically from a very young age. And I've been fortunate enough to have great mentors like Gil. But when it comes to providing access to the wider community and giving access to fundamental research, I thought, why not establish a national level science fair where we can have communities underrepresented communities in India participating in this science fair? So we were lucky enough to have 450 participants writing research papers in the environmental sciences, judged by a panel of 5 IIT judges. And they were presenting their research at the end in the symposium we organized. So it was really exciting to see someone like me and had the flair and was curious about research and creating that platform for them. And lead them to success. So that's something I'm really passionate about, and that's what Gyan Galaxy is.
Professor Alterovtiz, no conversation on AI or ChatGPT is going to be complete if we don't discuss something that is, of course, hogging headlines right now. It's not very positive news, but it has to be discussed, and that's the ethical issues regarding the use of ChatGPT. In the recent past, we've heard news that, ChatGPT has managed to even clear board exams in the UK, for instance. How do you respond to these questions when, the concerns over ethics perhaps are being raised?
Yes. So with any new technology, there's always risks and benefits. And especially early on when that technology is coming about, those can be quite magnified until you have frameworks to deal with those risks and benefits. So I think we're in that period now. What I think is important is to keep in mind that a number of these, with time, as we develop frameworks, that is kind of the need that we have to develop these frameworks so that we can work together with the AI. I think a lot of the cases that are causing an issue are usually from an extreme of like using AI to completely copy, for example, and create a paper and claiming it as one's own, right? But if it's used as a tool to help in the creative process, if it's used transparently, then it's an issue. But I think the main thing that usually helps in such cases, at least initially until those frameworks are developed, is transparency, right? Like if you are transparent that you used AI to take that law exam, then that kind of, it tells everyone what happened, right? And then they can judge whether or not you would get credit for it, right? In this case, our actual need or actual desire was to use AI as a way to show that you can promote STEM education, that these technologies can be used in a positive way for education. And like I said, again, this is like that with any technology.
Param, I want you to respond to that one as well.
Yeah, I think every technology has its advantages and disadvantages, and at its core, innovation is really salient when it comes to progressing towards the future. And obviously, in the short term, there'll be problems, but you have to look at it in a wider picture and the long term. And I think in the long term, AI is a tool, and it's a tool to help us engender scholarship and also come up with new ideas. And the book is a testament to that, because these ideas and creating this interdisciplinary approach has not been done by any other poets. So it's something that's novel, and it's something that and it's a different standpoint to how we view traditional science. So I think I agree that in the short term there will be problems, but when you look at it in terms of a long-term picture, it's something to our advantage.
Gentlemen, I have to take a quick commercial break. On that note, we are back in just a moment though. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. You're watching a very special conversation with Param Adani and Professor Gil Alterovtiz. Param, I'm curious to understand you. Of course, you're a student. You're still studying. And then you've written this book, so you've turned author. And you're speaking to us about Gyan Galaxy. I mean, there's so much that you're just putting together in the space of 24 hours. I don't know if you have more than 24 hours at your disposal, but you must talk to us about perhaps just challenges that you may have faced as a young student, doing so many different projects, running so many different, setups, writing the book. Any challenges and, learning experiences really from that you want to leave us with?
I think it was like balancing my everyday schedule of going to school and being a student, and also being an author and writing this book and meeting different deadlines. I remember, in order to publish the book, the whole publishing process was so taxing. I remember like an anecdote being, I had to do my school assignments, work on different research projects, and then also get this book going. So I think balancing all of that out and making sure that it's all out and it's all perfect was perhaps a challenge in the short term, but it's something I learned a lot from, and it was a great experience. So
to the long list of achievements that you have, Param, I understand that you also created an app while you were, of course, continuing to study in the UK, where you are at the moment. What was that app about?
Yeah, so we formed a company as part of the Young Enterprise Challenge in the UK, and our company was called Nutri. And we created this app, this sustainability scanning app. So you enter a supermarket in the UK and you get up your phone and you scan a product. It creates a sustainability rating per product. So what it does is it calculates the net carbon footprint for every product in the supermarket database. And therefore, you know how environmentally conscious you are when you're buying a specific product. So that kind of goes to show the importance of innovation and bringing in the idea of technology in there. So in this app, we kind of used artificial intelligence, data analysis, and also just statistical tools to analyze how massive of an impact a consumer has on the environment. So that's something that kind of highlights the importance of innovation in the future.
Param, I was only joking, of course, when I asked if you had more than 24 hours to your day, but I'm curious to understand how you're managing to juggle and effectively juggle all of these multiple roles that you have. And if you had any time management skill tips really for the entrepreneurs who are watching this interview, what would you want to say?
I think it's really being tough with yourself and knowing what your priorities are. That's the most important, and knowing that everyone has 24 hours, but you must sort of use every single hour and squeeze in as much as you can. That's what everyone wants to do, but it's important to be conscious of what your priorities are, and you meet those priorities, and just being as resilient as possible. I think something I've learned from my other mentors and my parents and my friends is that you just have to keep going at it. And if you do, it always pays off in the end. So yeah, I think that's how I take it.
Yeah, was that? Yeah, I can answer that certainly, but or if that's yeah. So what role? I think, and there have been studies that just recently came out showing the increase in productivity by some of these new AI tools in the range of around 25% or so increase in productivity. And we compared that to percentages that we've seen in productivity gains from the Industrial Revolution, and it looks very favorable, right? So that suggests that there's more than hype toward some uses of these technologies in increasing productivity. And when you increase productivity, obviously then you gain back those extra hours, or effectively you're able to do more with hours that you are devoting, right? So yes, technology, and specifically the ones that we talked about today, are making a difference.
Professor Alterovtiz, just coming back to the book, now that the world has really seen the possibility of being able to put AI and digital and technology and ChatGPT amongst other technologies to use to really co-create books, do you foresee this as being the start perhaps of a global worldwide trend to create more such books?
Well, I think there are two things. One is that we've heard a lot of talk about individual AI tools, right? ChatGPT, Bard. I mean, there are a number of them that people talk about. One of the things that was kind of unique in this book was that there was these AI teams, essentially. Some of them work collaboratively, like, how do you associate the pictures with the text? Other ones were kind of independently on the cover, or, the covers, or, the critic or other pieces. And I think that's something that, it'll be, it's a trend that I think we're going to start seeing in the future. How will we interact with these AI teams? How will the human teams interact with them? And what are the possibilities there? And those are some of the themes that we're exploring also in the next book, taking that to the next level. I really feel like in some ways we inherit a lot from our mentors. I'm really happy to sort of be able to work and pass on some of that interdisciplinary work in working with the students. And so really there's some great ideas that can come out when you're doing even just common things. That's the other thing that I learned from my other co-advisor, right? Because you were asking about, for example, they're only 24 hours a day, but some of those hours, some of that time, we're doing chores, we're cleaning up, we're doing things, but our mind, while we're doing physical work, our mind can be working and thinking of ideas. And many of the professors and students that I've talked to, some of their greatest ideas actually come from those times. So I'll leave you with that maybe we can make more than 24 hours in a day, at least if we think about it differently. And if not, we can always ask AI to help for the other parts, I guess.
Param, how do you continue to remain curious, which is so important for young innovators, and we're a show that also speaks very often with young innovators. How do you continue remaining curious?
Absolutely. So, from a young age, I was always passionate about robotics and Lego and building things. And my parents saw this this inherent idea of questioning why things work the way they did. And that kind of moved on to my passion for philosophy and, answering the big questions of life, or as they say, the ontological questions of the universe. And that, I think, is the most important part, the idea that you just have to be curious and not be afraid to ask questions. And, a lot of people, there's this dilemma that you're afraid of failure. But Samuel Beckett, my favorite Irish playwright, said, ever tried, ever failed, try again, fail better. So if you're curious and if you fail, you learn from that and you bounce back and you do much better at the end. So how my curiosity sort of started was through robotics, and from robotics to the natural sciences, and then to kind of philosophy and asking the big questions. So it's my main kind of piece of advice would be ask as many questions as possible, and don't be afraid to go out there and just explore.
All right, Param. Professor Alterovtiz, such a pleasure having both of you here. Wishing you much success, much luck in all of your future endeavors. Thanks for your time on the show. Out of time on tonight's conversation. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our details on your screens as we speak. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.